Discriminated by Matthew McKenzie. "It's been a long day," sighed Jennifer as she was sitting down to watch TV. It must have been 9 o'clock, but by then Jennifer would not have noticed. She was so engrossed watching her program. So many things she had to do during the day. Shopping, looking for work, checking up on family, and continuing with her online course. Still, Jennifer was tired mainly from wondering about her brother Darren. It had been only a year since Darren was diagnosed with psychosis, and Jennifer, as a dutiful sister, had to step in. Darren unfortunately had a drug habit, and over the years the damage of that habit affected his mind. Jennifer did not judge her brother. She tried to be there for him, but she often found the caring role difficult. If it was not for the police activity, then it was trying to navigate the health system. Still, Jennifer felt proud of herself for today. So much was done. But tomorrow was another day. There will be always more things to do, more things to worry about. Just then, there were loud police sirens going past Jennifer's flat. It was always the same. The neighborhood was rough. Every couple of evenings there were problems. To make matters worse, resources were stretched with the police. There was tensions with the community, especially the black community. "I wonder what could have happened now," Jennifer thought to herself. She continued to stare at the television, trying to forget the noise from outside. Jennifer could hear shouting outside her window. She was tempted to open the front curtains and peek outside. "I think I will just ignore the commotion. I just want to relax in front of the TV," Jennifer mumbled to herself. It was no good. Every few minutes, more shouting was coming outside her flat. Jennifer quickly got up and looked out the window. It was dark, but the glare of the flashing police car lights allowed her to focus on what was going on. It looked like there were several policemen trying to calm someone down, but whoever they were trying to calm, Jennifer could not see. The figure was too far. It was just too dark. Jennifer waited and observed, but just then the doorbell rang, which was followed by several bangs on the door. Jennifer's heart leaped. She thought the police might have come up to her flat and asked why she was watching them, but that could not be right. She knew the police would not care. It had to be someone else. "Hey, don't bang on the door. I heard the doorbell and I will be around to answer the door." Jennifer rushed to open the door. There was another bang on the door as Jennifer was about to unlock the door. "Hey, what do you think you are doing? I am here. Why are you banging on the door?" Jennifer complained. It was one of Jennifer's neighbors on the ground floor. She looked out of breath and stared at Jennifer. Suddenly, she reached out to grab Jennifer without saying anything. Jennifer was in shock. Something was not right, but she did not know what it could be. "Oh, what's going on? Why are you trying to pull me out?" asked Jennifer. "It's your brother. The police, come quick," Jennifer's neighbor shouted while out of breath. For a second, Jennifer put two and two together. The police outside, the sirens and noise. She could still hear the police shouting and also some screaming. "God, no!" Jennifer shouted. Jennifer rushed back inside to put on her trainers but did not stop to tie them up. "No! Wait!" Jennifer shouted to her neighbor. "Wait for me! I am coming!" Jennifer screamed at her neighbor. "Come on! We can't be too late! We need to calm things down!" her neighbor said, standing outside Jennifer's door. Jennifer leaped out her front door and did not bother to close the door. They both ran down the stairs and headed towards the police cars. Jennifer screamed at the policeman, "Wait! Wait! What's going on? That's my brother! That's my brother!" Jennifer could not even see the figure clearly in the distance, but she could see 4 policemen wrestling the figure to the ground. She did not notice if that figure could be her brother as she ran closer to the scuffle taking place. "Wait! Don't do that! What's he done?" shouted Jennifer as she ran closer to stop the policeman wrestling with the figure. As Jennifer got closer to the fight, she could clearly see her brother on the floor held in restraint. Blood was coming from his nose and mouth. Jennifer screamed in shock and anger. A policewoman quickly stepped in front of Jennifer as Jennifer started to swear at the police. "Get off him! Get off my brother! He's not well! He's not well!" Jennifer shouted at the police. One of the policemen who was struggling with Darren stopped and looked up at Jennifer. He was unsure what the commotion was. However, another police officer did not want anyone else getting too close. "Get back! Get back now!" the police officer shouted. A policewoman suddenly appeared out of nowhere and slowly tried to push Jennifer back, but she was not having any of it. Then all of a sudden, Jennifer's neighbor also tried to pull Jennifer back. "Jennifer, we got to keep our distance. We need to speak to the police. Try to calm things down." Her neighbor tried to convince her. Jennifer was not listening. She was screaming in hysterics. Jennifer then put both her hands to her head in disbelief and screamed loudly. "He's not well! He's my brother! Get off him!" shouted Jennifer. Just then, Jennifer's brother, who was on the floor, looked up at Jennifer. "Jennifer! Jennifer! Help me, racist police! Racist police!" shouted Darren. Jennifer screamed again, but eventually another police officer pushed Jennifer back. "Calm down! He's not going to get hurt! We are going to bring him in!" Jennifer paused, trying to catch her breath. To her horror, she could just make out one of the police officers going through her brother's pockets. Her brother was still struggling on the floor, but his struggles were becoming weaker. "What's your name? Please, what's your name?" the police officer asked Jennifer. However, Jennifer was too upset to answer. She was trying to work out how to save her brother in case anything went wrong. Just then, Jennifer's neighbor answered for Jennifer. "Her name is Jennifer, Mr. Policeman." The police officer looked at Jennifer's neighbor and then looked back to Jennifer in the hope that she would enter into a dialogue with him. "Okay, Jennifer, listen to me. They are just searching him for anything dangerous. What his name? Your brother?" Jennifer, still panicking, was just too tired to respond. She was in shock and she was still trying to catch her breath. "Mr. Policeman, her brother's name is Darren." Jennifer's neighbor felt obligated to respond. She knew Jennifer was too upset to respond, and she knew the police officer needed something to go on. Time was running out to calm the situation down. The police officer asked Jennifer, "Jennifer, can you do me a favor? Just say to Darren everything will be okay. Just say to him to stop struggling." It was no use. Jennifer was too hysterical. She had been through this before. Darren suffered from psychosis. When Darren had episodes, it seemed the police were never far away, but usually nothing too horrific happened. There was no struggles, no fighting, no use of restraint. Darren was able to calm down quickly, but each time Darren encountered the police, he then began to distrust the police. Each time the police tried to remove Darren from an area, Darren began to feel the police were out to get him. Darren's illness made him distrust people, but past experiences with the police heightened the distrust. Jennifer knew it was the illness, but she also knew the police were not trained to deal with mental illness. Jennifer also knew community support for the police was eroding away. There was history between the police and the community. People were trying to mend the damage, the hurt, but not enough time had passed. Jennifer also knew that one wrong decision could cause Darren serious harm. Just then, Jennifer snapped out of her frustration. "Darren, please, stop struggling, please. I am here, I am here." Jennifer pleaded to her brother. "Darren, listen to your sister. She wants you to calm down. You will be okay," the police officer repeated. Still, Darren continued to struggle, but he was getting too tired and he continued to shout. Suddenly, from the darkness, a crowd began to form. It seems the struggle and shouts alerted others out of the flat. "What's going on?" Another neighbor came out and slowly walked towards the police. Then someone else came out and another. Soon a crowd formed closer towards the struggle. The group of police officers began to panic as the crowd looked on. "For goodness sake," a police officer muttered, "we are still struggling with him. This is getting out of hand." It was not long before Darren passed out, but no one could tell if Darren had come to serious harm. The crowd started to get out their mobile phones and film what was going on. "They have killed him, look! They have killed another black man!" someone from the crowd shouted. "Call for the paramedics!" a police officer shouted on his radio. Another police officer grumbled, "We are not trained or prepared for this. Things could kick off." Jennifer, standing with her neighbor Paula, and the policewoman began to cry. Her neighbor began to comfort Jennifer, but Paula was not sure what else to do. She then turned to the crowd. "It's okay, he's tired. They are going to take him to the hospital. I think he's not well." "No, the police! The police have killed him like he was an animal!" someone shouted from the crowd. The shouts from the crowds grew louder, and Jennifer's neighbor was not sure what else to say. He looked at Jennifer. "Jennifer, do something, say something. If we don't, then Darren can't get seen to," Paula said to Jennifer. Jennifer looked at the crowd and then looked at the police officers who were standing over Darren. Another policeman asked Jennifer to approach, which she did. Jennifer then put her hand on Darren's shoulder, and Darren looked up at her. His eyes were bloodshot. He was clearly unwell, but not so sick that he could not recognize his sister. "He's okay, he's looking up at her," Someone from the crowd spoke, but the crowd was forming and getting larger. People were still angry, and they were ready to lash out at the police. Jennifer knew the situation. She knew what could happen. If the police had to spend their efforts focusing on the crowd, then they would ignore Darren, and Darren needed attention. He needed medical help. Jennifer looked back at the crowd forming. "Please, he's okay. We gotta get him to the hospital. He's not well. Just let them do their job." Jennifer shouted to the crowd. Jennifer's neighbor, Paula, quickly backed her up. "Yes, please calm down. He's unwell. You know, Darren? He's having a turn, not well. He is going to the hospital." Just then, an ambulance arrived and slowly passed through the crowd towards Darren. Some people from the crowd backed off to let the ambulance through. "Thank God," one of the policemen muttered. The ambulance crew leaped out and took Darren in. He was escorted by one of the police officers. However, they allowed Jennifer to get into the ambulance, which helped calm the situation. Another neighbor of Jennifer's, called Ziggy, approached the ambulance and asked Jennifer if she wanted him to follow in his car. Jennifer needed the support, but asked her neighbor Ziggy to go back to her flat and get her mobile phone and also make sure her apartment was closed. "Okay, I will come to the hospital with your items. I won't be long." Ziggy then wandered off into the darkness. During the ride to the hospital, the police officer looked at Jennifer. "That's your neighbor? He's a good friend, a good Samaritan?" Jennifer was too upset to respond. She looked down at the floor while the ambulance rushed through the streets towards the hospital. It seemed like the journey took forever as the paramedics tried to ask Darren some questions. Darren was not responding, and he was mumbling something incoherent. Jennifer knew Darren was very sick. She knew straight away he might not have been taking his medication. Jennifer sat straight up in her seat and spoke to the paramedic to help him assess the situation. "I don't think he's taken his medication. My brother is known to the mental health service," Jennifer pointed out. "Okay, we might ask you a few questions at the hospital. Is that okay?" The paramedic responded. "Yes, that's okay," said Jennifer. "Don't worry, he will be all right. We just need to make sure nothing is missed regarding anything physical." Jennifer quickly glanced at the policeman in the ambulance and then looked down on the floor. She felt uncomfortable and wanted to be any place but rushing to the hospital. Jennifer felt how things changed so fast. She was alone at home relaxing in front of the TV, and now she was in a panic wondering if her brother was going to deteriorate. Just then, the ambulance came to a stop. Jennifer knew they arrived at the hospital. She could see the flashing lights of the police car behind the ambulance. It was not long before they opened the door and rushed her brother into the A&E department. Jennifer, unsure what to do or say, followed the ambulance crew with policemen in tow. Darren let out a moan of anguish as he was moved to the unit. Jennifer could not tell if Darren's cries were mental torment or physical pain. "It's okay, Darren. It's going to be okay. I am here." Jennifer looked at her brother. She was scared there would be another scuffle or struggle with the policeman. Darren did not look at his sister. His eyes were glazed and staring straight ahead. Why did the mental health team not check up on him? Look how he's become, Jennifer thought to herself as she sat in the hospital waiting room. Hospital staff quickly collected Darren and took him to another ward. They told Jennifer not to follow as they were busy attending to him. "We will come down and have a chat later. What's your name?" One of the nurses spoke to Jennifer. "My name is Jennifer. Why did the police have to rough him up like that? He's clearly not well." The nurse looked at Jennifer. "If you wish, you can give evidence of what just happened." "I know. I just don't think I have the energy to do that right now. I am just tired." "Been a rough night," replied Jennifer. It was not long before Jennifer's neighbor Ziggy came wandering through the main entrance of the hospital. He smiled at Jennifer with a nervous smile. "Everything okay? Where is Darren?" Ziggy asked Jennifer. "They have taken him in to be assessed, Ziggy. I'm just speaking to the nurse. Did you get my mobile phone, Ziggy?" "Yes, Jen, here it is. I charged it a bit. I hope you don't mind." "It's okay, Ziggy, it's okay." Just then, Jennifer snatched the mobile phone, looked at the hospital floor, and burst into tears. She was overwhelmed by Ziggy's kindness. Ziggy was Jennifer's close neighbor. He kept himself to himself, never gossip and not the brightest person on the block. He was always doing odd, low-paid jobs, but kept himself out of trouble. Jennifer knew many people on the block, very quick and smart-witted people, but it was only Ziggy that took the time to help. "Hey, Jen, it will be okay, I mean. You are here at least. Darren will be okay. You will see." Ziggy looked back at the nurse, waiting for the nurse to respond in reassurance. Yes, Jennifer, your friend is right. Just give it time. The staff will look after him. Look, I have to go back to the ward. It's best you go home and get some rest, said the nurse. I have parked my car around the corner. I can take her home, nurse. Ziggy smiled. Without a word, Jennifer stood up, wiping the tears from her eyes. It was no good as the flood of tears continued to drip down her face. Jennifer felt unsteady on her feet. She almost felt that she was going to faint. She leaned on Ziggy to become more stable, but she also wanted to be comforted. The noise of the hospital was too much. The whole experience of the night was too much. She just wanted to go home. Ziggy smiled, putting his arm around her. He was confused and did not know what to say, but he walked Jennifer slowly out of the hospital and to his car. Ziggy opened the car door to the passenger side, and without a word, Jennifer got in and sat there quietly. Ziggy walked around to the other side of the driver's seat and got in. Throughout the whole journey back to the flats, not much of a word was said. Ziggy was not sure what to say to Jennifer. He could only drive her back and make sure she was safe. It was not long before Ziggy escorted Jennifer back to her flat. "Oh no, I hope you got your keys?" Ziggy asked. Jennifer looked in her pockets. "Yes, I have them." She slowly opened the door and let herself in. "Ziggy, you want to come in? At least let me make you some tea for all your efforts." Ziggy smiled. "Wait a moment. I will be back. Someone wants to see you. They only want to check if you are all right. I will knock on the door when I get back, Jen." Jennifer nodded and walked into her flat. She felt sick and isolated. The silence of her apartment was overwhelming as she walked to her chair. Stunned by what had occurred earlier on that evening, she was not in much of a mood to see anyone. Jennifer was just too tired to respond to Ziggy's request, but she did want to thank Ziggy, and if Ziggy wanted to have someone check up on her, then maybe that was thanks enough. As Jennifer sat on her chair, a cold tear slowly rolled down her cheek. She did not care to wipe the tear away. Over the years, so much pain and trauma built up with each of Jennifer's difficult experiences. She could not keep in those experiences anymore. She sat there in silence. She sat there wanting the pain to go away, not even bothering to turn on the light. She sat there in darkness. Just then, there was a noise by the front door. Jennifer could hear faint voices of two people talking. "Oh, I forgot to close the front door," Jennifer thought to herself as she got up from her chair. Ziggy and Paula walked into the front room as Jennifer stood up to greet them. It was obviously Ziggy and another neighbor who Jennifer recognized. "Hello, Jen. How come you are sitting in the dark?" Ziggy asked. Jennifer did not respond and just looked at Ziggy. It was then that Ziggy could see Jennifer had been crying. Paula, who also was Jennifer's close neighbor, was also standing there next to Ziggy. But this time Paula rushed towards Jennifer and cuddled her. The sign and experience of comfort and compassion was overwhelming, and Jennifer burst into tears. "It will be okay, Jen. It will be okay." Paula comforted Jennifer. Ziggy stood there. He again did not know what to do or say. He felt out of place and did not want to say anything. "Shall I go?" Ziggy asked Jennifer and Paula. "No, Ziggy. Stay. I could use the company," Jennifer replied. Paula took Jennifer's hand and they both sat down. Paula gave Jennifer a concerned look of sympathy. Paula did not say anything else as she waited for Jennifer to say something. Eventually, Jennifer fumbled about for tissue to wipe her tears away. "Oh, I am sorry. I am such a mess. What a stupid thing to happen," while Jennifer was wiping her eyes. "No, Jennifer, it had to happen. He is unwell," Paula interrupted. "No, I am so stupid. I should be a strong woman, and here I am crying like a baby." "No, Jen, that's not true," Paula said with a concerned look on her face. "No one is saying those things, Jen. You are doing the right thing. How is he? How is your brother?" Jennifer sniffed her tears away. "He's in hospital. Hard to get updates. He is in a bad way." Jennifer took her hand away from Paula's. "Why did they let things get this bad? Why did he have to go in like this?" "I am so angry at this situation. Time after time and after time. It is always the same. He gets ill, forgets his medication, or decides not to take them." Paula gave a sympathetic look. "I know, Jen, I know. It must be difficult for you." "Yeah, Jen, listen, I will make us some tea, something that will calm us down a bit. Let me shut the front door first," Ziggy requested. Ziggy then disappeared out of the room to shut the front door, but it was all a blur to Jennifer. She did not even notice, and continued to be overwhelmed by her emotions. She felt the whole situation was out of her control. It was only after a few minutes Jennifer looked up at Paula. Jennifer then asked Paula, "Paula, has anyone asked about Darren? I mean the incident a moment ago. There were a lot of people there." Paula gave Jennifer a sympathetic look. "I would not worry about that for now. Just focus on yourself and your brother for now. Did you see anyone at the hospital?" "He is too sick, so no updates as yet. I'm wondering if I should call now, just in case." "No, best wait till tomorrow. You need to get some rest," said Paula. Just then, Ziggy appeared with 2 cups of tea. He tried to keep up appearances with a friendly smile. Ziggy felt out of his depth because he was not sure how to support Jennifer. "Here you go. I hope you like the tea," Ziggy said as he handed the tea to Jennifer. Jennifer placed her cup of tea on the side of the table. "Thank you, Ziggy." Paula reached for her tea and began to sip from the cup. Ziggy then also sat down, but did not say anything. For a minute or two, there was silence. Paula and Ziggy were worried about saying something wrong that could upset Jennifer. The silence was broken when Jennifer spoke again. "You two are so kind. I mean that crowd, so many people. Where are they now to comfort me? It is only the 2 of you." Paula then looked at Ziggy, who then looked back at her. "We only want what is best. I mean, I have not cared for anyone with mental illness. It must be tough," said Ziggy. "Ziggy is right. It is a difficult thing to go through. Perhaps it is good to get support while you can. You have support networks, right?" said Paula. Jennifer responded, "They are weak at the moment. I have contacted my carers center. They are low on resources to support me." With a startled look, Paula apologized. "Oh, I am sorry." Jennifer smiled back. "No, it's okay. Having you both here actually takes my mind off things. I have got to unload my emotions somewhere." They then talked for what was about an hour. Jennifer just could not stand being alone after what she had experienced. The thoughts in her mind were screaming at her. It was like her mind shouting at her things were going wrong or that they were going to get worse. Jennifer had to shut them out, otherwise she felt she would lose her own mind. It was not until 11 p.m. Ziggy and Paula left. Jennifer was sad to not have the company, and she felt alone, more alone than before. Jennifer walked upstairs and fell into her bed. Her anxious mind would not stop. Jennifer took the pillow and placed it over her head. It was only a couple of minutes before she fell asleep. Exhausted by the episode, before she silently fell asleep. Jennifer woke to her mobile phone alarm, which was 7 a.m. in the morning. She sat up from her bed, still in her clothes. She fumbled in the early light and turned her mobile phone alarm off. Jennifer was groggy and miserable, feeling down and depressed. She sat on the edge of the bed in silence for what must have been a minute or two, her mind replaying the episode of the night before. "That's it. I have got to call the hospital," Jennifer thought to herself. "If this keeps up, I am going to end up in the hospital myself. I just wonder how Darren is. Someone ought to let me know from that hospital." Jennifer picked up her phone and dialed her manager's office number. She knew her workplace would not be open at this time, so she left a message saying she was not coming in today. Jennifer flopped on her back into her bed and looked up at the ceiling. Again, her mind started to replay events and think of the worst. "No!" Jennifer said in a loud tone. "No, I am going to get up." Jennifer went downstairs and turned on the television. It was the early morning news. She did not concentrate too much on what was on the television, but she decided at least to keep her mind distracted by something else. Jennifer sat down and looked for a notepad and pen. She listed important tasks for her too for the day. The first task she wrote was to call the hospital. The next task was to find out when she could visit. Jennifer listed more tasks, one by one, and then she set aside a plan if things went wrong. She thought out what else to do. "I know, I have got to set time for myself. I will list down call friends." As soon as she thought of her plan, she wrote that down. "It has been a difficult week. Everything ruined. I got to fix things. Everyone is depending on me now," she thought to herself. Back at the mental health hospital, Darren was admitted to the triage unit. This is where they observed how unwell someone is before referring them to other mental health wards. Darren felt depressed. He knew something triggered his illness last night. He just about remembered his sister shouting at the police. Why? Why? Why am I back here again? Back in this hospital? Darren spoke to himself. Why? Oh, God, why? Just then, another patient entered the room. Darren looked at him. The patient's face showed no expression, and Darren did not want any more trouble, so Darren just ignored him. It was only 10 seconds until a mental health ward nurse entered the room to observe the patient. Darren nodded to the nurse. All right, Darren said in welcoming gesture. The nurse responded, Yeah, what you in for? I don't know. It all kicked off last night. The police, you know? Ah, okay, the nurse replied. Just then, the patient interrupted Darren. What are you talking to him for? Darren then looked at the patient. What do you mean? All I said was hello. No one asked you to speak him, just mind you own business, the patient grumbled. The ward nurse approached the patient. Calm down, he meant nothing by it, just saying hello. It's okay for people to be polite and greet others. Well, I don't know. I don't want people in my business, the patient said while giving Darren a dirty look. But I was not saying hello to you, though. I was saying hello to the nurse. Darren spoke out to the patient. Oh, God, don't you shut up, Banana Man. Just get out of this room. Darren felt rage build within him. What? What did you just call me? Darren asked again. You heard. The ward staff picked up his communication link and spoke into it. Hello? We got a situation here. Send someone immediately. Just then, 2 other male ward staff burst into the room. They both looked at Darren. No, man. Just no. I was insulted by that patient. I am not going to be restrained again. Darren felt frustrated. The staff members took the patient out of the room and left Darren alone. There was silence again, but Darren felt traumatic about the event. First to be tackled by the police and then to be nearly tackled by mental health unit. Darren sat down. He began to cry. Life was unfair and things were not making sense. Where was his sister? She would understand. She would help Darren not feel alone in this world. Back at the flat, Jennifer had been waiting on the phone for several minutes. She had rung the hospital, but due to lack of staff, it was difficult to get a response. Jennifer's mind began to predict all sorts of happening. She could not help herself due to what she saw last night. She imagined Darren had escaped from hospital and that the police were after him. She even thought that Darren had picked up an injury and that he was in critical condition in the hospital. No! I cannot wait on this phone line anymore. Jennifer hung up the mobile phone. Anything could have happened. Anything, she thought to herself. Jennifer then got up off the sofa, rushed to get her keys, and headed off to the hospital. It was not until 30 minutes that she arrived at the hospital. She was in a bad mood. She did not sleep so well last night, but she had to make sure Darren was all right. Jennifer rushed to the hospital reception area and asked about Darren and which unit her was admitted to. Darren McCall, yes. He was a patient at this hospital, but he has been sectioned. He was taken straight to the mental health unit across the road. The hospital reception responded. Jennifer knew that unit well. She thanked the receptionist and headed outside the hospital to the mental health unit. It was not long before she arrived at the unit. Jennifer again spoke to the receptionist on duty. Hi, I heard my brother Darren has been admitted to this unit. Which ward is he in so I can go see him? Jennifer asked the receptionist. The receptionist looked at Jennifer. Oh, are they expecting you? Well, I was with my brother last night. I just want to see how he is doing. The receptionist looked at Jennifer and then quickly checked something off the appointment diary. Give me a moment. I need to make a call. If you can wait outside and I will call you back in. What? I know he's here. Why cannot I not see him? Jennifer continued. Just a moment, I will let you know. Let me make this call, okay? Jennifer relented and walked outside. I don't believe this. What's going on? Do they not train their staff? Jennifer sat down on a bench outside the ward. It was cold. There were 2 other patients talking outside rather loudly. Jennifer could see that they were complaining about staff. They are always strict here. Never a good time to recover in this place, one of the patients complained. Ah, it's all the same. Does not matter where you get sectioned. They treat you like dirt, the other patient replied. Jennifer sat back and closed her eyes. She did not want to waste time sitting on a bench. She could have just sat on the sofa at home. She wanted to see her brother Darren. She wanted to make he was all right. But then 10 minutes later, Jennifer wondered why she had not been called in. She got up and headed back inside the mental health unit. "Hey, I have been sitting outside for more than 15 minutes. Why did you not call me in?" Jennifer complained. "I am sorry, but it's protect times now. You will have to come back in an hour." The receptionist smiled at Jennifer. Jennifer was in shock. "What? Hey, I could have visited earlier. You did not even apologize for not calling me back." "Well, sorry," the receptionist replied. Jennifer grew angry, but felt the receptionist would not allow her in due to any stupid reason. So she turned around and headed back out of the unit. She decided to look for a cafe and get something to eat. "A whole hour and my mind is so anxious. How will I cope?" Jennifer wondered to herself. Jennifer purchased some food and a cup of coffee to try stay awake. She could not eat and the food grew cold as she kept picking at her food. She managed to drink the coffee, but due to her anxiety, it felt the time was passing too slowly. Jennifer got up out of her table and took her coffee with her. She headed back to the mental health unit. This time, Jennifer got lucky as the receptionist allowed her to go through. "Darren is in the triage unit. He might be too unwell to see anyone. Press the bell to see if they can let you in." Jennifer nodded back at the receptionist on duty. She then went around to the triage unit door and pressed the button. Jennifer waited for a minute for someone to answer, but no response. The minute seemed like an hour. Jennifer then pressed the button again. Then all of a sudden she could hear keys jangling. The sound of the keys were getting closer. "At last," Jennifer thought to herself as the door slowly opened. Sounds of the patients inside the unit grew louder as the door opened. A large man stood in front of Jennifer. Obviously, he was one of the staff members on duty that day. "Hello, sir. I have come to see Darren. Can I see him?" "I am sorry. We are short staff at the moment. I would suggest you come back when he has been transferred to another ward. Please, can I just see how he is doing? Even from outside the door, I can just say hello. You can wait for me," begged Jennifer. "We are too busy at the moment. Come back another time." Jennifer had enough. She had been jerked around for far too long, and she felt discriminated. She started to shout Darren's name from outside the unit. She was hoping Darren would hear her from the corridor. "Darren, Darren, it's me, Jennifer." "Hey, look, don't do that. Don't shout. We have patients here not well, and they need the quiet," the ward nurse complained. Jennifer continued to shout, "Darren, it's me. I just want to see that you are all right." Just then, a head poked around from the door at the far end of the corridor. It was Darren. His eyes were all red, but he must have been alert. He smiled weakly, but his facial expressions showed a sign of fear and torment. "Jennifer, I want to get out. I want to go home," Darren shouted back. Jennifer shouted again, "Darren, you will be okay. You need to just wait. They need to make you." Then all of a sudden, Jennifer felt a hand on her shoulder. Jennifer looked around and saw 2 ward staff members giving her a stern look. "Okay, miss, you need to go. We think you are causing a scene. Come with us." Okay, I am going. Screw this all. Is this the way carers are treated?" Jennifer was led out of the unit. Her face changed to a look of disgust, but at least she managed to see Darren, as Jennifer was heading home. The incident kept replying around and around in her mind. How could staff members on the unit treat her like a criminal? Jennifer was thinking hard to complain. She felt she was left waiting to go in. She was not listened to, and she was kept waiting. She felt staff at the ward could not differentiate between family carer or a difficult patient. When Jennifer arrived home, she rushed upstairs and threw herself into bed. She had enough of the day, and as she fell asleep, she could feel a cold tear rush down her face. Jennifer shut her eyes. Tomorrow was another day. Back at the mental health unit, it was getting dinner time. Darren had not eaten anything for ages. He was tired and he was hungry, but his mind was confusing him. The episode with the police last night kept him alert. He was scared because he did not know what would come at him next. His mind kept replaying the harm he suffered earlier again and again. Darren shook his head to try shake the awful thoughts out, a decision that came out so quickly that Darren was startled. Darren shook his head again and again, not knowing what to do. Just shake those thoughts out, can't stand them anymore, can't stand myself. Just then the door opened. It was one of the ward staff and looked straight at Darren, shaking his head. The ward nurse had seen this all before. Patients doing strange things, no time to say anything the ward nurse needed to keep to schedule. "Darren, it's dinner time." The ward nurse put his hand on Darren's shoulder. Darren then stopped shaking his head and looked up at the nurse. Darren stood up and followed the nurse out of the room. Darren felt weak and unsteady. God, I am so sick, Darren thought to himself. His shoulder was hurting. It must have been the struggle with the police last night. Still, the food on the ward got Darren's attention. Darren sat down at the table and looked at the food. I can't eat this. It's not the food I was expecting. I am sorry, Darren complained. One of the ward staff looked at Darren. It is best to eat something. Eat what you can. It's not my food. It's not my culture, Darren complained again. I think I will just go sit down elsewhere. The patient from earlier walked in and sat near Darren. Why do people come to this country and complain about the food? The patient mocked Darren. I was born here, mate. Darren looked down, trying to avoid confrontation, but he felt he had to defend himself. Darren felt he had to defend his values. You? Born here? And yet you complain about the food. Just go back to your country. The patient laughed at Darren. With anger, Darren pushed the plate of food away as it dropped to the floor, making a mess. The patient laughed at Darren as Darren was about to get up and walk away. Suddenly, one of the ward staff approached and asked Darren to pick up the mess he made. I am too tired. I just want to stand in the corner for a bit. Clear my head, Darren moaned. No, clear it up. We don't want to keep clearing up after you people, Darren shouted. I need to clear my head. My head hurts. Just then, two men jumped on Darren. Darren fell to the floor. As his face hit the floor, there was a flash of light. Darren grunted in pain as he was dragged away. All Darren could hear was laughter. It must have been coming from the patient. Darren struggled to remain conscious, but it was no good. The sounds of laughter grew quieter as Darren passed out. It began black, dark, and quiet. The darkness slowly crept away as Jennifer opened her eyes. It was morning and the birds were chirping. Jennifer got up and prepared herself to go out again. How nice, the birds. I do not often pay much attention to them. The simple things in life make me glad to be alive. I wonder how Darren is doing. Jennifer thought to herself. I wonder if Darren ever paid attention to birds. Just hearing them puts a different perspective in life. Jennifer paused in what she was doing. It is so important to look after your mind. Once it goes, then it is harder to feel alive. It is harder to hear the birds sing. Jennifer phoned her work experience placement to say she will come in tomorrow. She had to spend time with Darren. She was determined to see him, and this time the staff at the mental health unit were not going to put her off. If they will not let me see him this time, I will definitely complain. Jennifer groaned. It was not long before Jennifer arrived back at the mental health unit. It only took half an hour to get there since there was not much traffic on the road. Jennifer felt in good spirits, but she was nervous as she did not want to be escorted off the ward again. This time the receptionist was actually kind to Jennifer. He wanted to make amends from the day before. That's nice, the receptionist let me in. Perhaps things will be different today. Perhaps this is a good sign, Jennifer thought to herself. She pressed the buzzer to the mental health ward and waited for someone to open the door. It was not long before the door opened, and again the ward nurse remembered Jennifer from yesterday. Oh, you wanted to see Darren, right? Please come right in. He is sitting down. Just be careful with the other patients. They are unwell, okay? Yes, sir. Jennifer followed the nurse to a room where Darren was sitting down looking out the window. Darren? It's me, Jennifer. Darren slowly turned around and looked at Jennifer. He stood up and walked to a seat that was mounted to the ground to stop the chair from being thrown. Jennifer sat next to her brother and looked at him. She could see that he has been crying. Jennifer hugged her brother before she sat down, but the signs of comfort overwhelmed Darren. He began to sniff and weep. Hello, Jen. You know I am sick, right? You know I am trapped? Yes, brother, I know. I am here for you. Darren looked down to the floor, feeling ashamed. He felt ashamed that he let his sister down. He did not want to depend on his sister, but here he was depending on her again. As Darren looked down on the floor, Jennifer noticed a bump on Darren's forehead. How did you get that? That could not have been from the police? Asked Jennifer. Darren looked up at Jennifer and sighed. It's this place, sis. It's this place. What, Darren? What do you mean? Suddenly, Jennifer got up and walked out of the room towards the main office, looking for staff to explain the situation. Hey, have you seen the state on my brother Darren? How did he get that bruise? Jennifer asked the ward reception. I am sorry, what do you mean? the ward receptionist replied. My brother! He's got scratches and a bump on his forehead. When I asked him about it, he only said it's this place. Care to explain? Jennifer asked again. Hey, sorry. I was not on duty, but do please raise this with the hospital's liaison department. Jennifer growled in anger. She stormed off out of the ward and headed off, not saying goodbye to her brother. Let me out! Jennifer screamed down the end of the corridor. The staff were only too pleased to open the door. Jennifer noticed the keys from the ward staff jangling due to them being nervous as he tried to unlock the door to let Jennifer out. As soon as Jennifer headed outside, she was on the phone to someone. The ward staff could only stare as they wondered what trouble was in store for the unit.